Welcome. You've given us a fascinating and, well, dare I say, adventurous source this time. The Ultimate Guide to Cunnilingus, How to Go Down on a Woman and Give Her Exquisite Pleasure.
Uh-huh.
Now, you might think the title tells the whole story, but we're not just skimming the surface here. Our mission is a real deep dive to unpack the many layers of cunnilingus, exploring different viewpoints, techniques, and all the nuances.
Absolutely.
I know.
And what immediately struck me about this guide is just how comprehensive it is. I mean, it tackles everything.
Right.
From the sheer pleasure involved, for both the giver and receiver, right through to the nitty-gritty of anatomy, the often overlooked emotional stuff, navigating anxieties,
Yeah, the anxiety.
important health considerations, a whole spectrum of techniques and positions, and even some more, let's say, advanced explorations. It's clear this isn't just a quick how-to.
Definitely not. And it kicks off by highlighting that this one act can stem from many pleasures. It's so much more than just like a physical act aimed at one specific outcome, isn't it?
Precisely. The guide really digs into the diverse motivations. For some, yeah, it's the straightforward joy of the physical sensations, the intimacy. But then you have these other, maybe less openly discussed desires, that feeling of being completely consumed by pleasure, or a sense of deep tenderness, or even that thrill of doing something a little bit naughty.
That's quite a range.
These different drivers really underscore the complexity of our sexual desires.
Fascinating. And the guide brings in some really insightful personal perspectives too, doesn't it? Like Margaret Cho.
Yes, she talks about the incredible possibilities and how her imagination just takes flight during cunnilingus. She beautifully articulates how it can be a gateway to fantasy.
A gateway. I like that.
Yeah, allowing for this really profound internal experience where she can explore different facets of herself and her sexuality, ultimately leading to a very intense and focused orgasm. It shows that powerful link between the physical and the imaginative.
And then Violet Blue gets straight to the point with, if we're having sex, he knows what he's got to do first.
Huh. Yeah, that definitely sets a clear expectation.
Doesn't it just?
It does, and it speaks volumes about how highly some people value cunnilingus as integral, sometimes even essential, right,
Yeah.
as a starting point.
Yeah.
And her follow-up, nothing compares to the warm, wet feeling of a lover's mouth caressing your most sensitive and private places. Wow, that's just so evocative.
It really is. It brings the sensations to life.
Exactly. The unique, intense feelings involved.
The guide even includes a quote from someone who genuinely enjoys performing cunnilingus, finding the smell, the taste, the closeness deeply arousing.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Because it reminds us pleasure isn't solely focused on one partner's orgasm.
Right.
The person giving can also get significant arousal and satisfaction from the whole sensory experience, the connection, the joy of giving pleasure.
Okay, let's dive into the second section, which has a wonderfully intriguing title, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Getting Head.
Eh?
That suggests there can be some initial hesitations or maybe even negative experiences to overcome.
Definitely. This part directly addresses common anxieties and misconceptions about receiving oral sex. Feeling uncomfortable or uptight or just not getting what the fuss is about pleasure-wise. There's a really relatable story about a woman, Lori, who initially didn't enjoy receiving it until she tried giving it to another woman.
Interesting.
Yeah, that shift in perspective completely changed her own experience of receiving.
Wow. That's a powerful example of how stepping into the other person's shoes can unlock something.
Totally.
The guide also goes into some of the deeper cultural baggage, doesn't it? This unclean vagina stigma. It's surprising how persistent that stuff can be. Do you think modern media still subtly reinforces it?
That's a fascinating point, and the guide touches on how deep-rooted this stigma is.
Yeah.
It references, all the marketing for douches and feminine hygiene products.
Right, the implication you need extra cleaning.
Exactly. Beyond normal hygiene. It even delves into historical and religious origins. But then it presents this really powerful counter. Gynecologist Dr. Sharon Hillier stating a healthy vagina is actually cleaner than the mouth.
Cleaner than the mouth, that really challenges the misconception, doesn't it?
Directly. A long-standing harmful one.
It definitely gives you pause. And the guide moves on to address concerns about the appearance of the vulva, really emphasizing self-acceptance.
Such a vital message. It underscores the incredible natural diversity in how vulvas look: size, shape of labia majora, minora, the clitoris itself.
Yeah.
It's so important to remember there's no single normal, and crucially, appearance has absolutely no bearing on pleasure capacity or response. It's direct body positivity for a very intimate part.
What about those anxieties around scent and taste? That's something I imagine many people might feel self-conscious about.
Yeah, common concern. The guide offers practical advice. If you're worried, showering with low pH soaps helps maintain a healthy vaginal environment. It even names brands like Basis, Purpose, Cetaphil, Aveeno, Physiderm.
Oh, specific brands.
Yeah, and notes natural soaps are often lower pH too. The idea is to maintain that natural acidity, which protects against harmful bacteria, without causing irritation or odor.
Makes sense.
But the guide is also very clear in debunking the bad taste myth. It actually states, quite bluntly, pussies taste great.
Huh. It certainly doesn't hold back.
Nope.
And it touches on flavored lubricants, suggesting they might actually play into those feelings of shame.
Exactly. It points out the irony these lubes meant to mask natural tastes often end up tasting artificial and, frankly, unpleasant.
Right.
Plus, the high sugar content can disrupt natural vaginal flora, potentially increasing yeast infection risk. Not ideal.
So the guide really encourages getting to know your own natural scent and taste through self-exploration.
Absolutely. It suggests masturbating and then maybe gently smelling or even tasting your fingers afterwards, becoming familiar.
Okay.
And advocating for open communication with a partner, because many people genuinely find their partner's natural taste and scent appealing.
Finally, in this section, it addresses the worry of it taking too long to reach orgasm through cunnilingus. That pressure.
Yeah, the core message here is shift the focus away from immediate orgasm as the only goal, towards the process of communication and shared pleasure.
So, enjoying the journey.
Exactly. Have open conversations about concerns. If the experience feels good and connecting for both of you, that's success, regardless of whether an orgasm happens right then.
Okay, let's move into building blocks for great sex. The guide starts by highlighting masturbation. You know, it still feels a bit taboo for some, but the guide presents it as quite empowering.
It really is. Presented as fundamental for overcoming sexual anxieties, for deeply understanding your own body, what brings you pleasure, and crucially, learning how you achieve orgasm.
So practical self-discovery.
Totally. It offers practical suggestions. Understanding your anatomy, setting aside dedicated time, creating a sensual environment, experimenting with different positions, types of touch, using mirrors, lubricant. It's about becoming intimate with your personal pleasure map.
And then it discusses the power of fantasy. How does that connect with enjoying cunnilingus more fully?
Fantasy is presented as a way to transform potentially anxious scenarios into pleasurable ones, mentally.
Ah, like a rehearsal.
Kind of. If someone worries about orgasming from cunnilingus, the guy suggests actively fantasizing about it during masturbation, imagining their partner's touch mirroring their own sensations. It's about exploring desires without judgment in that private space.
Okay.
And then using those insights to communicate better with a partner. The guide even shares a candid fantasy. One of my biggest fantasies is having someone go down on me while other people are watching.
Wow, okay. That really highlights the diversity of desire.
It certainly does.
The guide also talks about getting connected to your sexual self. What techniques does it suggest?
These are practices aimed at bringing more presence and awareness to your sexuality. It mentions a mindful breath exercise focused specifically on the genitals.
Just breathing and focusing.
Yeah, bringing attention and energy to those sensations. It also refers to sexual pressure points detailed later and Kegel exercises.
Ah, Kegels.
Right. Strengthening those pelvic floor muscles can improve blood flow, potentially leading to more intense orgasms. It even mentions Betty Dodson and her Kegel barbell shows dedication.
It does. And the recurring theme of communication comes up again here, right?
Absolutely essential. Your partner isn't a mind reader. You need to communicate desires, even literally showing them what feels good.
That makes sense.
And it points out, for many people giving oral sex, having their partner actively guide them is actually a major turn-on.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It also touches on a tricky point. What if a partner seems reluctant? Emphasizing open conversation, and maybe, if there's consistent unwillingness, a deeper look at the relationship itself.
Let's move on to anatomy for pleasure. The guide makes it clear right away. Female genitalia are incredibly unique.
Yes, immediately challenges any notion of normal. Stresses variations in size, shape, color have very little to do with sensation or pleasure.
Good point.
And it cautions against unrealistic porn portrayals, mentioning labiaplasty, makeup, even pussy glue used for the camera. It describes on-screen cunnilingus, often looking like an exaggerated version of Fido with a mouthful of peanut butter.
Uh-huh. Okay, that paints a picture. So what key anatomical features does it highlight for pleasure?
Starts externally. Outer lips, labia majora analogy to the scrotum for protection. Then inner lips, labia minora, emphasizing their huge range in color, texture, and nerve endings, comparing sensitivity to the foreskin.
Okay.
But the primary focus, obviously, is the clitoris.
Which the guide calls the powerhouse of orgasm, doesn't it?
Exactly. Its primary, essentially only function is pleasure. Highlights the incredible nerve density around 8,000, according to Rebecca Chalker.
8,000. Wow.
More concentrated than any other body part. It explains the clitoral hood's protective role, noting direct touch can be too much for some.
Well, it needs gentleness.
Yeah, indirect stimulation or via surrounding tissues is often preferred. It describes the glands and shaft clearly and underscores the clitoris is a complex system, nerves, tissues, muscles, erectile tissues extending way beyond what's visible.
That's a really important reminder. So much more going on beneath the surface.
Definitely.
The guide also discusses the sexual response cycle.
Right, this section explains the physiological changes during arousal. Increased blood flow to the pelvis, nerves firing up, breasts enlarging, nipples getting sensitive due to oxytocin, skin becoming hypersensitive, genital flushing.
A body getting ready.
Exactly. Understanding the body's natural responses as pleasure takes center stage.
And it also touches on the periurethral sponge, or G-spot, often talked about.
Yes. Describes its approximate location inside, front wall, few inches, and how it swells during arousal. Explains stimulation with the finger using a come-hither motion or pressure.
But it's not for everyone.
Correct. It notes some find the associated feeling of bladder urgency unpleasant, while others experience intense orgasms from it. Highly individual responses, really.
Let's move to a more serious but crucial topic, health considerations. What are the key safety takeaways?
Okay. This chapter addresses STI risks through unprotected cunnilingus. Emphasizes risk is generally lower than other acts, but definitely not zero.
Right, not zero risk.
It discusses specifics. HIV, blood contact, example menstruation plus mouth cuts, hepatitis A, oral fecal rimming, Hep B, like HIV, fluid exchange via cuts, Hep C, direct blood contact.
Okay.
Herpes, highly contagious via mucous membrane skin, transmission possible between outbreaks, strongly advises barriers like gloves and dams.
So using protection is just as important here.
Absolutely crucial, especially if either partner has a known STI. It also covers bacterial ones. Gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, noting gonorrhea's syphilis transmission possible via oral vaginal if sores are present.
And common infection.
Touches on trichomoniasis, bacterial vaginosis. Yeast infections can develop independently, but potentially spread via secretions, though yeast spread this way is less common.
It sounds like being informed and practicing safer sex is paramount. What specific advice does it offer?
Strongly advises barrier methods, latex or non-latex, with any sexual fluid contact, especially with known STIs. Recommends talking to a physician or STI specialist.
Makes sense.
Discusses fluid bonding, both partners tested, agree to be unprotected only with each other. Acknowledges personal risk choices, safer sex as a spectrum. Addresses the awkwardness of suggesting a dam, the fear a partner might assume you have an STI.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
And it even highlights that, for some, incorporating safer sex can actually be erotic.
What specific safer sex gear does it mention?
Dental dams, sometimes called lollies, thin latex squares. Explains how to use them, even suggests a DIY dam garter for hands-free use.
A garter. Creative.
Yeah. Also mentions gloves and unlubricated condoms for toys. Importantly, warns about air embolism risks from blowing air into the vagina.
Oh, right. Important warning.
And briefly touches on episiotomy, potential sensation changes, suggesting knowledge, practice, Kegels, masturbation can help.
Let's move on to a section that sounds quite sensory. Tastes and textures. Kicks off with a memorable quote.
It does. Eating pussy is like eating peaches on a really hot day. Such a vivid analogy, potential for sweetness, juiciness, refreshment.
Really emphasizes the sensory aspect.
Totally. This section underscores the role of senses in arousal. Then addresses pubic hair, noting some prefer smooth-shaven partners.
And it delves into waxing.
Yes. Explains bikini line versus Brazilian wax, the process, finding a good waxer. Even mentions temporary crystal tattoos on waxed skin.
Crystal tattoos. Okay.
Adds a bit of sparkle, apparently.
What factors influence vaginal pH and scent?
Explains douching, Certain soaps, semen, can disrupt the natural pH balance and affect scent. Suggests showering together is a sensual way to handle cleanliness concerns.
Good tip.
Advises maybe tasting vulvar fluids on fingers first if curious about taste, gauging comfort. Also makes that interesting point. The mouth has more bacteria than a healthy vagina.
Still surprising to hear.
Recommends rinsing with water mouthwash before oral sex. Maybe avoiding brushing teeth right before to minimize tiny gum cuts for fluid transmission.
Now we're getting into the practical how-to with cunning linguistics. Getting started in strategies. It acknowledges initiating this can feel daunting.
Absolutely. Introducing it or suggesting changes can bring up anxieties, appearance, scent. Guide points out historical cultural biases, past laws prohibiting it.
So sensitivity is key.
Crucial. Approach with sensitivity, gentle questioning, create a safe space, suggest gradual introduction if there's hesitation. Offers practical tips, shower together, romantic lighting, partial clothing for body image concerns.
It also makes a point that the goal isn't just a race to orgasm, right?
Exactly. Reassures taking time is okay.
Yeah.
Primary goal. Shared pleasure, connection, uses that analogy. Making love to the driver, not the car. Emphasize the journey.
I like that.
Underscores asking what feels good. Exploring the whole body first with kisses, licks, before focusing solely on genitals.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Starting licks and tongue techniques. Where does it suggest beginning?
Start gentle. Explore the whole vulva with hands first, contours, textures. Maybe taste natural fluids on your hand to sense the partner's taste. Hands first, okay.
Recommends initially nibbling, kissing outer lips, labia majora. Hold off direct clitoral stim at first. Explore the perineum too, with kisses licks. Offers playful intro ideas. Finger in own mouth while touching partner. Pubic hair play, gentle lip tugging. Mons veneris manipulation, breast nipple stim. Even preliminary anal exploration with finger, but strong hygiene caution if returning to vulva.
And the actual starting licks.
Suggests gently using fingers to open labia, then lick the folds furrows beside the clitoris. Gentle nibbling on outer and inner labia with just the mouth. Kissing the whole vulva, open mouth. Long, slow, deliberate ice cream licks. Starting slow and gentle is key.
How does it advise approaching the clitoris itself given its sensitivity?
Stresses. Generally avoid direct, intense stim right away, often too sensitive initially.
So circle around it.
Yeah, lazily circle it with the tongue, gentle side-to-side flicking. Constantly watch partner's reactions, adjust pressure. Offers that funny lipstick tip too.
Yeah. General guidance on tongue techniques. Practice on your palm for pressure range. Saliva lubrication. Lists various mouth actions, covering vulva, nibbling, different tongue uses. Soft, light, pointed, firm. That ice cream lick. Gently sucking clitoris, varying pressure. Even gently taking clit between teeth. Minimal pressure.
Now we're on to strokes and combinations and orgasm. Encourages imagination.
Absolutely. Uses the analogy.
Right.
Like kissing a mouth, you wouldn't just focus on one tiny spot repeatedly. Emphasizes experimenting with different strokes, combining them, paying close attention to pleasurable responses.
Good point.
Practical tip. Keep upper lip over teeth, prevents accidental nips. Lists, stroke ideas, up and down, figure eights, swirling, pulsing, lick then pressure. Even mentions a fairy butch class technique for support variation.
What about when orgasm is approaching or has occurred?
Notes the clitoris often retracts slightly just before. Emphasizes all orgasms are valid. Pay close attention to cues right after. Continue. Stop. Just hold.
Follow their lead.
Totally. Explains orgasms vary greatly length, intensity. Partner might push away or pull closer instinctively. Advise holding still immediately after heightened sensitivity. Suggests wiping face before kissing if cleanliness is a concern. And reiterates, oral sex can be pleasurable regardless of orgasm.
The guide also includes a section on cunnilingus positions, taking different needs into account.
Briefly mentions kneeling classic, hot but tough on knees. More importantly, emphasizes injuries, disabilities don't negate desire, just might need adapted positions.
Props help.
Strongly recommends props.
Yeah.
Bolsters, pillows for support, comfort. Gives specific position ideas for neck injuries, MS, diabetes, ADHD, acknowledging varying sensations, pain, racing thoughts, etc.
That's really thoughtful.
Notes sexual function in paraplegic, quadriplegic women might be affected but can improve. Mentions phantom orgasms. Advises pacing yourself, avoid jaw time fatigue, suggests using fingers gently as an alternative.
Now for enhancements in extreme sports. Sounds like adventurous territory.
Indeed. Exploring ways to amplify things. Discusses vibrators.
Yeah.
Start low, avoid direct clitoral contact initially, base of clit surrounding area is often effective. Explores erotic pressure points. Mons maris, inner thigh crease, perineum, base of spine, firm finger pressure, heightened sensitivity, enhances orgasm.
Okay.
Okay. Introduces cool tingling sensations. Sugar-free menthol mint lozenges. Strong caution. External use only. Nipples, vulva, outer anus. Risk of internal irritation, air, embolism.
Got it. External only. And then it delves into pleasure pain play.
Yes. Suggest outer labia is a good start for stronger sensations.
Yeah.
Light spanking, rougher sucking, gentle biting, pinching. Always emphasizes enthusiastic consent, clear boundaries.
Consent first.
Absolutely. Mentions clamps clips. Test sensitivity first. Moves to more intense pain play. Forceful spanking, flogging, more involved clip use. Zipper technique with rope clips. Introduces pinwheel sharp pain. Cautions against deep piercing, not sharing. Finally, explores master-slave. Dominant submissive role-play in cunnilingus. Consensual forcing ordering, reward punishment, exquisite torture, turn-on of being a willing oral slave. Suggest blindfolds heighten other senses, feeling of surrender.
So the final technique section is beyond the vulva, focusing on rimming and anal penetration.
Rimming presented as potential addition. Licking, fluttering tongue around anus. Huge emphasis on bacteria transfer risk from anus to vulva vagina. Absolute necessity of barriers. Dams, plastic wrap, cut condoms, or thorough cleaning if switching areas.
Hygiene is critical there.
Non-negotiable. Describes initial contact techniques. Ice cream lick, kissing, pressing, massaging with tongue, starting light. Addresses cleanliness concerns. Notes clean anus doesn't necessarily taste bad. Highlights specific risks. Hep A, anal herpes warts, possibly HIV. Reiterates need for barriers or Hep A vaccine. Lube warnings too. Cautions against flavored lubes for rimming, bad taste, sugar, and numbing agents in some anal ease lubes. Then transitions to anal penetration as potential extension. Golden rules go slowly. Listen, use lots of water-based lube.
Slowly. Listen. Lube.
Got it. Describes gradual finger intro, circular motions, potential simultaneous vaginal stim, importance of flared base on anal toys for safety. Mentions vibrators butt plugs during cunnilingus with appropriate precautions.
Finally, the guide concludes with stories and resources.
Yes. Mentions erotic short stories included in the source. Reviews types of sex guides, quality varies, recommends reputable ones. New Good Vibrations Guide to Sex, Guide to Getting It On, whole lesbian sex book.
Good recommendation.
Discusses erotic videos, mainstream porn, often poor portrayal. Camera angled, not pleasure angled. Recommends specific directors focused on women's pleasure, authentic scenes, Hart, Royale, Redner, Strano, Thomas. Mentions women-only porn, specific series performers. Notes how-to videos helpful for explicit instruction. Lists relevant websites, Carnal Nation, Clace Press, etc. References the extensive book video list in the back for deeper study.
Wow, that has been an incredibly thorough deep dive into the ultimate guide to cunnilingus. It certainly revealed, well, a universe of information and experience beyond any basic assumptions. It truly underscores that cunnilingus is multifaceted and potentially deeply rewarding.
It really does. What you shared is a resource encouraging comprehensive understanding, looking beyond just techniques to the emotional landscape, anatomy, safety. It's a wealth of information.
So, for you, our listener, as you reflect on this wide array of perspectives, techniques, and considerations we've discussed, what single aspect of cunnilingus now feels the most unexplored or perhaps the most intriguing to you? This deep dive has certainly given us all a lot to think about and perhaps explore further in our own ways.